Welcome to lecture 3, where we talk about spreadsheet and database. I thought it necessary to bring in this course just after introducing Microsoft Excel to you, because in my introduction, if you can recall, Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet program. So in order to appreciate and understand what Microsoft Excel is, I think it will be necessary for you to understand what a spreadsheet and also to understand what a database is, because I've seen most professionals do not even consider whether to use a spreadsheet or database depending on the tasks and assignments that they want to do. So I think if you can have this fundamental understanding, it will be easy for you to know when to use a database and when to use a spreadsheet. So in this particular course, we're going to discuss in detail spreadsheets and database. So what is a spreadsheet program? Basically, a spreadsheet program is a computer application which is an electronic document that arranges data in rows and columns, which eventually makes it to be a grid. And that helps to calculate, to arrange, to sort, and also to have different types of data in that particular program. What is a database program? A database program is also an application which is an organized collection of structured data. So take note, organized, meaning data is organized in a specific way. While spreadsheet program, there is flexibility. But for a database, organized, and the data therefore becomes structured. And mainly it's for speed and also retrieval. Speed when you are trying to search for, so it's optimized for retrieval and searching. It contains multiple relational tables. Here's an example of a spreadsheet program. As you can see, the this is row and this is column. So we have a row that has store, address, product, and amount. Then for store, we have a column. So a spreadsheet organizes data in rows and columns. We have another example here for a database with a similar example of using the similar example of a spreadsheet. So if this data under spreadsheet was to be a database, this is how you have it. You basically create these column into tables and you make them relational so that you can retrieve the data faster and easily. So basically a database is a collection of more than one table that are related, and a spreadsheet is a flat table without any native relationship. This means there are similarities and differences with spreadsheet and database. What are those fundamental differences and similarities that come with spreadsheet and a database? So let's look at a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet has the cells, which, like I showed you, the rows and the columns, the cells are independent of another. So one cell will be independent of another. For the spreadsheet, both form and function with full user interface. So Excel or a spreadsheet, in this case, you have full access to the user interface. The data can be changed directly in a cell. You have access, like the second point already shows, you have full access to the user interface. So meaning you can work on the data directly in each in each cell. You can link cells to each other. You can import columns more freely. You can put in different types of data in each column. Displays calculations data primarily. It's able to store limited amount of data. As much as we said it stores quite large amounts of matter, but if you are to compare it with a database, you find that the database usually it's in unlimited phase. So basically these are the fundamental difference with respect to a database. In order to appreciate them more, let's look at uh, the database. What makes a database different from a spreadsheet? So we have, in comparison to cells being independent, for a database, they are tied to each other within a row. They are not independent for a database. They are tied. So in comparison to the second difference again, for a database, they function above with limited interface. So you don't have much access to the data except through a limited user interface. And I'm sure you've heard of SQL, structured query language. Usually is the fundamental language that is used to speak to a database. But in this case, I will not focus on SQL. I will focus on the user interface that most databases have, which generates the SQL in the background. All you have is a user interface that you'll be able to work with. Even that same user interface is quite limited to the extent to which you can achieve SQL. But at the level that you use this data in your profession, the interface will be so much sufficient with respect to either using a spreadsheet or a database. Having said that, data is calculated before being stored. It's always calculated before being stored. Rows can be linked to each other, while in a spreadsheet, cells can be linked to each other. But in a database, the cells are tied to each row, and rows can be linked to each other. Columns have to have the same type of data in a database. But in a spreadsheet, you can enter a name, you can enter a phone number, you can enter different types of data. There is flexibility. But for a database, whatever data type you choose, you will not be able to enter different data type. Like if you say text, you will not be able to enter numbers. If you say numbers, you will not be able to enter text. If you say boolean, which is either yes or no, true or false, that's the only thing which you can enter. That's for a database. It's also able to keep records of user actions. So for a spreadsheet, you may not be able to track what you've been doing from one action to the other, but with a database, it has got the capacity to track every action that is being taken. Having said that, it's able to store vast amounts of data compared to a spreadsheet program. So a spreadsheet program is able to store a lot of data. Trust me, it's able to store a lot of data. But in terms of its capability of storage, it cannot be compared to the amount of data that a database can store in a general sense. So now what makes these two software, spreadsheet and database, similar? What are the similarities that they have? So number one is both of them can visualize data with tables, rows, columns, and cells. So you can basically visualize data with both of them. The difference could probably come in how they visualize, but you are able to visualize data. You're able to reference other cells or properties of the data that you are entering. Can store data in an organized way. Both of them can have data stored in an organized way. And this probably shows you why, on average, people never even consider, should I use a spreadsheet or a database? Because a spreadsheet can be modified to be a database, which is why most people never even think of a database. But this course will give you that insights to be able to know when to consider a database instead of a spreadsheet, and also how you can use both of them together. We'll look into that as we go on in the course of this lecture. And finally, you can use forms to edit your data. For a database, usually forms are natively like Microsoft Access, because this course is focused on Microsoft Excel. So we'll compare Microsoft Excel to Microsoft Access, which are both Microsoft products. So for Microsoft Access, there are native forms which you can build in the software for entering data. For Excel, you could also have the native, but they are not as advanced as Microsoft Excel. You may have to do a bit of some programming, but they can both use forms to enter data. So I'll try to make this course lecture very short. So I'll end here and start part 2 of spreadsheets and databases, where we will now look at Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Access in managing one's data, and look at their differences, when to use Microsoft Access, when to use Microsoft Excel, and how to use both of them. So see you in the next lecture. Bye bye.